got to be alert 24/7. You cannot miss a second or a millisecond at the speeds that you're doing and the terrain that you're going across.
It's just a challenge of the thing, really. Where else can you do it? You know, I mean, we get loose on the best roads in the country for 6 days. Fantastic.
Welcome to the Dunlop Targa New Zealand for 2005. After more than a decade, Dunlop Targa continues to reinvent itself. New roads, new competitors and new sponsors. The ultimate tarmac racing in New Zealand. This year, thanks to the Papakura district, Targa will start in the heart of Papakura, the main street. This event attracts all sorts, cars and drivers. So it's a chance for the locals to see their Targa favourites firsthand.
It's great to see it. I've watched it on TV many a time, but it's good to come down and actually see it in person.
This year, a shakedown run before the prologue is the tryout before the tryout, before the race. In reality, it's a chance to take your sponsor for a ride or simply check out the handling of your new wheels. Roger Townsend returns to Targa after crashing out of the last stage in 2003 in spectacular style. But is it the same car?
It's a bit like Grandad's axe. It's most of it is the same car. It's a new shell, but the rest of it's all the same. So the old shell had been around for 21 years and it was tired and stretched and bent, and we decided it was time to replace it.
Neil Allport is back again. His frenetic efforts to win Targa last year were thwarted when his factory Mitsubishi Evo 8 let him down in the dying stages.
Yeah, this is really challenging. This is a lot more challenging than last year. Last year we knew what we had. This year it's a little bit unknown, so we've got to work our way into this car.
And at this stage, what is also unknown is this will be the shortest event Neil's ever started in. Allport retires the Team Talk Lotus after the first prologue event. But Neil Allport can't even claim the prize for the shortest Targa. That trophy goes to one of the event sponsors, Peter Johnson and the GVI Ford RS200, sidelined after a spark plug cap has accidentally dropped down the induction system in final preparations. PJ is not prepared to risk running the rear Ford without stripping the engine, and his Targa is run without even a kilometre being clocked up. Motorcycle ace Aaron Sliders in his first Dunlop Targa event in a Honda Integra R under the Honda Riders Club banner, and will be reacquainting himself with four wheels.
Blue Wing Honda has supplied the car, but it's a whole Honda image. It's, we're going to have cars on display, there's going to be boats on display, there's going to be stationary engines, the whole thing, mini bikes and motorbikes. So just a whole Honda range, so you can go down and just have a look and see what they make.
As the representatives of Honda in New Zealand, we push Honda in all sorts of fields, and we find our customers ride bikes, ride PWCs, have Honda boats and Honda cars. So we thought we'd wrap the whole thing together with our man Aaron Slight, who's doing a lot of work with us this year to push this concept and have 7 days of fun on the road.
Bob Boniface himself is a veteran of 7 Targas, but finishing has not been his strong suit in what can only be described as bits a car.
They've all been frustrating, but also fantastic. Our finishing record, I think, is maybe only 3 of those times. We'd like to finish, obviously, and give this old car probably its last outing and make it the most successful one.
Now with an Evolution engine under the bonnet and a set of Honda wings on the side, 2005 might just be his best chance. The team has also entered 2 cars in the more sedate Nava Tour. One car that has remained unchanged after all these years belongs to Petra Bates. It's also the biggest in the field, a Ford Thunderbird. And an early favourite with National MP for Clevedon, Judith Collins.
I really love the Thunderbird. It was just so cool, and it's even older than me. And I think just about everyone else here, so it's a fabulous car, and yeah, that'd be my favourite.
In these fuel-conscious times, Ford now concentrates on small economic cars like the Focus, arguably so smooth you can even leave your handbag on the roof. While the handbag and dog might look familiar, the same can't be said for the driver. The dulcet tones of Adrian Mason have pierced the Targa airwaves for more years than most of us care to remember.
Come on, you mates, get yourself ready.
And the acronym SINA says it all.
Specially imported, noisy and rude Tasmanian.
And boy, isn't he a proud Taswegian.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. You must have brought the weather from Tasmania with you.
Because if they read history, they would find that if Tasmania wasn't where it is, half of Australia wouldn't be there. But anyhow, you guys are our eastern suburbs.
Synard is not the only one tooling around in a Focus. Expat Steve Millen is back and trying out the locally converted Ford Focus XR6 Turbo. Yes, you heard right, a Focus with a mid-mounted Falcon XR6 Turbo. Forget the fuel economy. This one is a grunt machine.
It's every guy's dream, isn't it, to have a little hot rod car like this, like the small, nimble Focus with the big, powerful turbo Falcon motor. Like, what else could you ask for?
But like all hot rods, it takes time to iron out the bugs. And that's what's happening in Prologue.
What's the load on for? Okay, it's got oil pressure, you got oil pressure, just turn it off, everything's right.
Millen is not the only expat here having teething troubles. Florida-based car dealer Gavin Richards is back again and something a little more familiar.
We just finished building this car in the US and it literally only arrived here on a plane on Saturday. It was a little late because the airline managed to lose it on the way over here. And we've got it entered. We're having a few technical issues with it because we didn't get a lot of shakedown time before we left the US.
The only difference between Rich's Porsche and the other 30 entered in this event is his is left-hand drive in the latest model 997. Between that and the 1956 365 taking part in the Nava Tour, there are variations galore. If you get the feeling that these Porsche drivers think they have the answer, then you're not alone. Before the event starts, stories, some tall and some true, are circulating about and by Porsche drivers. Bottom line, you either like them or you don't.
The Targa New Zealand is like it was years ago, with a bit of Kiwi ingenuity. Guys who don't want to buy a Porsche or can afford to buy a Porsche try to build a car that'll beat it. You know, and that's what you've got. You've got some specials that have been done to try and win the event without spending the amount you have to buy a Porsche. So I think that's good too.
And it's Jim Richards who has more to answer than anyone when it comes to influencing the choice of car to win Targa. 12 years ago, he thought he knew just the car to win Targa events, and with motorsport commentator Barry Oliver alongside, the pair set a record for winning more tarmac rallies than anyone else. As a driver, Jim Richards is the benchmark in Targa competition. You could say he's a living legend, and that's exactly what Labor Day Monday is all about. Prologue for Targa at Pukekohe Racetrack is also a moment for some of New Zealand's living legends to soak up the atmosphere from a bygone era. While Richards remains a household name thanks to an extended career in V8 supercars across the ditch, others like Robbie Francevic and Chris Amon remain in the public eye thanks to classic events like Dunlop Targa. For others though, like Wayne Rogers and Jim Palmer, today is simply a chance to turn back the clock.
Jim been racing for a long, long time, and you know, in the early '60s, even before that, was it Jim? Yeah. You know, so you know, in the late '50s, early '60s, it's amazing where the years have gone, and of course, it's hard to recognise a lot of people too.
So what do these legends think of today's drivers?
Well, they all look to go pretty good to me.
Well said.
Well, most are pretty good.
We just nicked it on the corner there and it hit the wheel. Fortunately, we've got another Mini at home, Cooper S, so we'll just have to plunder it, and you'll see us back here tomorrow.
Did you believe us?
How much work was involved, John?
No, not at all. Not at all, but I tell you what, Mum's going to get a surprise when she wants to take the kids to school in the morning. Goes down the garage to check the other one. There's a bonnet missing, there's a wheel missing.
Real smiles.
Wanganui's Peter Cullen has changed cars and colours for 2005. Gone is his red home-built Cole Baker Special. In its place, a newly acquired and rebuilt bright yellow Di Tommaso Pantera, hopefully with all the bugs ironed out.
We think we've got their inherent overheating problems fixed, and we're just so looking forward to today to really get into it, and it goes really well.
The local constabulary is leaving nothing to chance either. Each driver breath tested for alcohol before leaving Pukekohe, bound for Special Stage 1.
Very good.
Excuse me, officer, you realise this car's left-hand drive?
Shit.
Well, go and check the driver then.
Just me, eh?
Good morning. Don't you know the
left-hand drive?
Yeah, left-hand drive.
Can you just say your name and address for me, please?
My name is Petra Bates.
Thank you very much. Very well.
You're not the first person who's done that, so...
And I won't be the last.
Special Stage 1, Glen Murray, has been used since 1997. The 10-kilometre stage will reflect little of last year's stage as it's being raced the opposite direction. For the serious, this is where Dunlop Targa really begins.
It's an endurance event for a start, and so I've got to get this thing and myself to the finish. But there's certainly some people here that weren't at Tauranga that are well worth looking at.
And one of those is Wellington's Joe McAndrew, back this year with a faster car.
And it's much better having a lot more horsepower. It just sort of gives you the edge to burn down the straights and just have to turn in the corners. It's all working pretty well.
Have a nice day.
Okay.
If winning by association has anything to do with it, then McAndrew should benefit from sharing the VIP pet food sponsorship.
Tony, a couple of VIPs in this year, eh?
Yeah, 2-car team this year.
What's the rationale behind that?
Joe's a nice guy and Kevin's a good guy, and they wondered if I'd put the stickers on the car, and I said, yeah, that's the rationale behind it. That's a business strategy behind it. There's none.
Tony Quinn himself, a former winner of this event, is amazed by the quality field around him.
Every year they get better and better. Every year they get better and, faster, and I don't know, you just wonder where the times are going to come from next year.
Maybe Quinn is just hedging his bets. After all, Joe McAndrew is already second quickest in the Nissan GTR, but this is not the only Godzilla in the field. Despite setting the early pace, Harry Dodson's objective is simple.
Keep the car going and keep it on the road and see how we fare at the end of the day.
Our Kiwi living legend Robbie Francevic is back and as loud as his Pontiac GTO, here again to do battle with Targa and his troublesome gearbox.
The car felt as good as it's ever felt, and with the confidence now of I won't say it, the thing that changes gears, we should be right as rain.
Another familiar face is back, but not with his trademark Triumph.
Yeah, it's a bit unfamiliar. I usually run the TR7, but it's great to be back in a Holden. My first rally car was a Holden Monaro, and I feel quite comfortable with this. It's Greg Kirkham's car, and he prepares it terrifically. And yeah, we are off to a good start yesterday, and now this is the real thing, and we're really looking forward to it.
The list of cars capable of winning Dunlop Targa in 2005 is longer than ever, but the Porsches seem likely to feature. Will Salas in his GT3 is always a top contender, but this year we don't know the form of the Queensland wildcards. The Juniper brothers, Sean and Scott in 996 four-wheel drives, and Russell Kepnich is back in his GT3. If being rich, at least figuratively speaking, is a prerequisite to driving a Porsche, then the two expats, Jim Richards and Gavin Richards, are in the right cars, and both capable of a win. Richards has the latest machinery, albeit with teething troubles, but Richards has the form, and the early money is with him for the win. A Dunlop Targa hospitality tent is set up at Special Stage 3 at Whatawhata, just outside Tawamutu. Here's a chance for the crowd to catch a glimpse of the cars roaring by, complete with official Targa commentary. Every car carries a Cure Kids sticker, denoting the value of the sponsorship raised by that car for the event's nominated charity from bronze through to platinum. The brainchild of Targa Promotions, in 2004, Cure Kids benefited from the Targa largesse to the tune of $50,000. In 2005, the figure will balloon to over a whopping $80,000. Tony Butler in the Kiwi-built Cheetah kit car sports the Cure Kids livery. Giving the charity exposure is great, Tony, but going this slow is possibly taking things to the extreme.
Maybe having a few problems in the Cheetah, Tony Kilroy.
Clyde Walters lives up to his reputation for driving it like he stole it, setting up and sliding his Mark III Cortina through the corner. For drivers like this, lack of horsepower is never an excuse for being slow. Tony Barrow's Dunlop Tyres Commodore SS powers through the corner, slipping and sliding. The Utes' first outing in Tauranga earlier this year proved successful for Barrow, returning times that kept him up the front. The argument about new versus old in Targa will always be hotly contested. Aside the Porsches, another popular off-the-shelf race car is the Honda Integra R. For retired race team owner Steve Horn and rally legend Neil Johns, the Integra R is a reliable and fast Targa car straight off the showroom floor, and certainly more affordable than a Porsche. The trouble is, they're so reliable we almost overlook them. They're fast, but hardly spectacular enough to warrant a mention. And they rarely crash. But Neil Johns just changed all that.
We hit a really big bump just back there on the straight, and so hard the right rear suspension collapsed. And it just went a big slide and caught the left front in the corner of the culvert over the other side there.
Neil and co-driver Leanne Ross are placed in neck braces as a precaution by the St John's team. The paramedics are working overtime on this stage. Tony Barrow has had a huge off in the Dunlop Ute just down the road, and Special Stage 3 is downgraded to touring. Co-driver Kelly Barker has her foot trapped and requires help from the rescue crews to be freed. It's been an action-packed morning, and many teams reach the pit stop lunch stop with a sigh of relief. Steve Millen has been having his share of problems with the Team Talk Focus. The lack of test time is beginning to show, a fuel problem.
So we did that, then we stood on it and went up through the first couple of Ks, and it was awesome. The car was really good, and then it started the whole missing thing again, and particularly through right-handers, it just cuts out. But the first, for the first little while, I thought, man, we fixed all the problems.
We're going to think on that. We've got some more bits and pieces we're going to change, so we'll come back to you.
Thank you.
Tightening right. From here on, we're going to look for oil on the road. Oil pressure again, it says, but you've got tons of oil pressure. 50-pound oil pressure. 94 the temperature. She's nice and cool. You can't see any oil.
Sitting alongside Millen is racing Ray Williams, himself an accomplished driver, and certainly someone who can appreciate the difficulty of driving in these circumstances. And now adding to their woes, there's a vibration in the drivetrain.
It's on-off, it's really savage, just on-off, and we're just very worried now about axles and universals and everything else that's getting a hard time with the torque the car's got. Huge amount of power, and if it's going, I don't know how many hours it can take for that before something breaks, so he's trying to nurse it as well. So there's a lot going on in our minds at the moment, trying to keep the thing together and give the guys a fair run at it, and they're a fabulous team, and just hope they can sort it out and give them something good to play with.
So Millen isn't the world's fastest Kiwi at present, but there's still hope for the world's fastest Indian.
That's what we're here for.
A man who never let the dreams of youth fade. 20 years ago, Millen and New Zealand film director Roger Donaldson worked together on Smash Palace, a movie about the exploits of a Grand Prix race driver. Maybe some things haven't changed.
And we were talking just about a month or two ago about getting some promotion for the world's fastest Indian in California or in the States. And I've got good contacts with the magazines, motorcycle magazines and car magazines, so I made those introductions and told him I was coming down here to do Targa, what a great event it was. And he said, why don't we get together? Why don't we promote the film on the side of your Focus? So I thought, that's a great idea, and just like we did, nearly 20 years ago.
Gavin Rich's brand new 997 is not going well.
You come through a corner and the car's a little sideways, you've got to put your foot down to drive it up, there's nothing there, it just dies. So, it's just killing our stage times and killing our momentum. The car's handling great if we could just get the damn engine to run.
Actually, Gavin, having a steering wheel might make the handling a touch easier too.
I got to give it back to him. I keep thinking that I'm over here, driving a right-hand drive car, and maybe he'll let me drive for 5 minutes. Haven't been that lucky.
Despite a few mechanical problems and the early crashes, there's a very positive feeling about the first day of Targa.
Fantastic morning at the office. Loved every kilometre of it. It's been just awesome. Fabulous roads, fabulous car, fabulous weather, great competitors. Beats the hell out of working, that's for sure.
The roads are stickier, there's been a little bit of gravel around, but frankly it's just fantastic. And the old girl is gripping well at the back and holding on at the front, so we're okay so far. Touch wood, we'll be fine.
Well, we had a good day, yeah, we have. The car's going really well actually. In this weather, I'm actually really enjoying it. Relaxed and, Todd the co-driver is doing a great job and the car's just performing well. Some bloody awful competitors that we've got through. Some fellow competitors at the pits. Yeah, we just want to stay safe. This is my last Targa. I've done, this is my 10th year, and this is my last, and sorted a few things with the car before we started, and that all seems to be working, so we just want to go through and do well, but stay safe.
Gold coin collectors are rampant on Dunlop Targa, a sort of Robin Hood scene with worthy causes extracting money from the target. In Moko, the local school is looking for some cash and Targa is their target. You want to pass through Moko? You'll have to pay for the privilege.
There's Targa!
The afternoon run through to Taranaki ends with Special Stage 8, Tarata. A feature of this final stage is a series of narrow tunnels.
Lights on. Hard to see. Right out of tunnel. Very sharp right out of tunnel.
For South Islander Grant Sylvester, there'll be no light at the end of the tunnel, at least for today.
We lost forward drive a couple of stages ago and we've just been sort of coasting along, taking it easy, trying to get to an overnight break tonight where we can do some repairs, and now we've lost all the drive, so got it up and powers.
And the light at the end of the tunnel for everyone else is New Plymouth. The first chance to get some rest since leaving Auckland this morning.
You like that?
Oh, beautiful.
What was it?
BDA. Only one motor car, BDA.
Something pretty special about it, isn't it?
Too right there is, mate. Especially in the forest, first thing in the morning.
Roger Townsend might not have the horsepower of his more modern counterparts, but his BDA Escort has him leading the Metalman Super Classics class and also outright index of performance leader, based on handicap. While Mr. Metalman himself, Clark Proctor, leads from fellow all-comers competitor Charlie Evans. Jim Richards has taken the early lead in Honda Riders Club Contemporary class and is also the outright fastest in Targa at the end of the first day. Almost everything in Taranaki centres around the mountain by the same name, towering above the surrounding farmland plains. It's a majestic mountain that dominates the skyline from every angle, and more often than not shrouded in cloud. You know, it's a special day when the locals start bringing their cameras out to get a picture, and that's exactly the scene Dunlop Targa is greeted with on day 2. Mayor Peter Tennant flags competitors away from the centre of New Plymouth on the first of 9 special stages around Taranaki, before descending on Wanganui and finally Palmerston North.
And your way, all the best today.
Special Stage 9 leaves Egmont Village and starts out as a narrow farm track, winding its way around the hills. There's plenty of moss around, so things will be slippery, and all set to a backdrop that picture postcards are made of.
Yeah, just grab it on the inside of the corner there. It's acute. Oh no, it's not that acute.
Petra Bates has been pushing her big Thunderbird around the roads of Targa every year since it began. She might not be the fastest, but she's definitely got the widest car. And on this road, there's little chance to overtake. But she's lucky to be here after an early minor mechanical setback.
We had our dramas on Monday night, had to take the motor out and fix the thrust bearing for the clutch, and it's just been going beautifully ever since. I've actually blown the head gasket, the exhaust gasket of the header, so it's not a major, you know, and I'm just texting to arrange for the spare one to be couriered to Hastings, and we'll fix it up there.
She's also fiercely proud of her knowledge of her Thunderbird engine.
Yep, but I do like to know a lot about what I drive, so I can participate in fixing it up. I'm perhaps not, you know, I'd be extremely slow, but I definitely know what's under that bonnet.
From one end of the field to the other, Harry Dodson has got some time to check out that mountain after an off within 5 minutes of starting the day.
I think just really going a bit quick. You see in the corner, we come into the corner here, going obviously a little bit quick, couldn't wash up enough speed and just got a little bit sideways through the corner and hit the grass here, and picture tells the rest.
It's a lucky break for Dodson. Aside the superficial fiberglass body damage, it'll be $10 for a new oil line, $50 to dry clean his race suit, $1,000 for the new fence, and he'll be back in the race, all in a morning's work. Speaking of work, Peter Cullen's got a bit to do. He didn't even get off the start line this morning. The Pantera's jammed in first gear. Never mind, Peter, your Wanganui workshop's not far away. We'll see you later this arvo. Oh, and by the way, you're going to miss the best bit of the morning, Pete. The yumps.
Half a K to the jump.
This is where the drivers need big steel and balls of nerve.
.10, another one. .22, another one. .28, another one.
I mean, I try not to get it off the ground, and I think the car would fly okay, but we don't want to break it. We've got a long way to go.
Mal Clark has built 30 Targa cars over the years and has finally found time to enjoy Targa in his own 3.5 Rover. It's a far cry from the quiet V8 burbling around the streets of London. In the Kiwi countryside, this Rover is all growl.
Way too much air on that one of those jumps this morning, and we've crushed the exhaust up against the bottom. We've got a few bangs going on, but otherwise it's all pretty good.
David Nathan's Triumph Stag is original. Seemingly the English built this car from the front to the back and obviously ran low on metal by the time the diff was needed. Mind you, back then they probably weren't thinking they'd still be doing this all these years later.
We're working with a 30-year-old car here, and in the true spirit of the classic car, it's the original transmission, it's the original Triumph gearbox and differential, modified and rebuilt of course, but they are still the original components. And yes, it's a constant battle to nurse this fragile 30-year-old stuff along.
How many more diffs have you got?
No, this is the only one with us. We've only got one spare, but I think we're all
Dunlop Targa limits tyres to 6 per event, so looking after them is important. The objective is simple: keep the cost of racing down and even up the chances for those with big bucks to throw a new set of tyres on every day. For the serious, it means preserving the tyres.
What we try and do is we come up to the corner, we brake late, and then we part throttle around the apex of the corner, so we carry that corner speed, and then we accelerate when we get in a straight line. Now, what that does is that allows the tyre to get a bit of a rest. If on the last day, if it's good and close, we'll have the throttle on hard through the corner. But at the moment, we seem to be moving, away slightly, doing what we're doing. So we're not doing anything different. We want to conserve the car, conserve the tyres, and have something left at the end.
Waioku's Chris Allen doesn't have the checkbook racing budget, but he doesn't have the desire to win either. He runs a different tyre rule to the rest of Targa. He has to. He's already used his quota up, and it's day one. So competition is not his main focus.
If I wanted to win it, I wouldn't be in this thing, would I?
They say if you've got it, flaunt it. And that's exactly what Allen does. Even mid-special stage, if there's a crowd, there's time to entertain them. This time it's the Team Talk crew of Steve Millen and Ray Williams enjoying the action, despite the frustration of being temporarily sidelined in the Ford Focus after the fuel problems got worse.
It got lean one time too many and has done some damage inside the motor. So the boys have taken it to Palmerston North. They're trying to get the motor apart to see if we can repair it, and hopefully it'll be in tomorrow and we'll do the rest of the rally. And you make a car that's just been built with all this technology in it, which that little Focus has. It's pretty hard to expect it to come out here and run against these $300,000 Porsches and that. But when it's developed, it will. And they'll know it's here, that's for sure.
Harry Dodson has been trying to make up for lost time. While it's unlikely he can win outright, he takes a penalty time equivalent to the slowest time in his class for each stage missed. And there's always the challenge of fastest individual stage times to go for, as an incentive. Starting from the back of the field for the remainder of the day means running amongst slower cars, and with that comes the joy of overtaking mid-stage.
Go left through the bridge. Goes left. Go round, go. Okay, let's go. Come on, yeah. Roll. Yep, okay. Go.
through the bridge. Watch the other end of it. Watch out. Yep. Left.
An unusual addition to Targa this year is the Skelter G-Force, a new design and concept out of Queensland. With a body resembling a bright orange Batmobile, it's been veritably described as being as ugly as it is quick. But make no mistake, this little 2-litre Honda-powered Skelter is quick and nimble. All up with crew, it weighs in at just 900 kilos.
We definitely designed it to create some downforce. That's why the model is the Skelter G-Force. But yeah, it is meant to be a handler. I mean, it's never going to be the most powerful car in the field, but when we get to the corners, it really does go around well.
Another Queenslander, Russ Kepnich, has raced a few Targa Tasmania events and was here last year for the 10th anniversary.
When you get in nearly 2 Targa Tasmanias in one, it's a pretty good deal. So, and everyone's really friendly and helpful. It's good fun. I think it pretty challenging roads, very different from Australia. Some stages a lot quicker, but also the endurance part of it. This is 700 competitive stages compared to only 450 back home. So you've got to have your car and your head in pretty good shape.
It's a sentiment shared by other drivers and probably the reason so many line up to take part.
I enjoy the ability to build a car that's going to last the 5 days. As you'll see, lots of drama's been going on. I've only done 15 stages. And it goes back to the early 70s when I did 24-hour rallies and 5 days heatways. You know, that you had to build a car that lasted the whole length, and I enjoy that. And the camaraderie is really good too.
Cliff's co-driver is himself a seasoned Targa competitor. How could we forget Judd's memorable exploits sliding in his black BDA Escort in the wet a couple of years back?
Well, he's my brother-in-law as well, so yeah, we're fine in the car. Jeff used to navigate for me in the mid-90s when I drove for Rally Art, so he's been in the car lots with me, and yeah, we gel pretty good.
Another Cantabrian, Alan Scott, has been coming back to Targa for 7 years. His RX-7 has been very competitive, and he's regularly featured in the top half dozen in the past. But the competition is hotting up.
I think every single year it's got harder and harder. People have got better, cars have got faster. I think there's a big step this year, a huge step this year. And some competitors, maybe 6-7 years ago, who would be in the top 5 are probably struggling to be in the top 20 now.
With a solid lead and a reputation for smooth, consistent driving, Jim Richards is going to be difficult to catch. Wellingtonian Joe McAndrew is taking the fight to the expat, but he's having trouble staying in touch.
Yeah, we sort of have a few problems. It's missing and losing a bit of power. So we've, a bit wounded at the moment. It's a bit hard to sort of fight when you're wounded. Try and get it sorted tonight. Hopefully we can battle tomorrow.
And bearing the battle scars of his early escapades, Harry Dodson has thrown down the gauntlet. He's taken penalty times for this morning, but in special stage 15, he's second quickest, a mere 1 second behind Jim Richards.
Coming up. This is it. It's the one.
Somebody all right?
Mark White has surrendered his modern lead to Nick Gordon in the RS 911 Porsche, followed closely by Gary Cliff in the BMW M3. While in early modern category, Barry Kirk-Burnand in the 325i is 24 seconds clear of his brother Chris in the M3. But it's his nephew Mark doing the driving, Barry, so watch out. Joe McAndrew in the VIP Petford's Nissan Godzilla leads his Super GT category and is second outright behind Jim Richards. Emma Gilmore inherits third after Harry Dodson's excursion into the Taranaki scrub. And Aussie Ray Vandersea has outgunned many of the larger horsepower cars to take fourth outright.
It's a Reliant Scimitar GTE, originally built in the UK. When we were looking to do the Targa in New Zealand, being from England, we looked for an English car to do the rally, and we looked at the Astons, we looked at quite a few other vehicles, but we found the Reliant and found that it had a full chassis and it's easy to work with, Watts linkage at the back. The original Essex engine was a little bit weak and difficult to get horsepower out of, so we transplanted the Holden Ecotec engine into it, and it's done everything we want to.
Day 3 dawns bright and clear in Palmerston North. There's already rumblings around that the weather looks like holding good for the remainder of the week. That'll cause major problems for teams relying on wet weather to make their softer compound tyres last the distance. For those with the harder tyres, the rest of the week should be dry and enjoyable. Sadly, the same can't be said for the local copper, who insisted on running through the first special stage outside Martin before the competition began, despite the protestations of officials. The end result speaks for itself. This is one of the best spots to view Dunlop Targa from, and even with double caution markings on the road and in the safety route book, the red mist still sets in.
Too fast, eh? Trying to catch Aaron.
Were you?
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Yep. No, pretty good. No one's hurt. Bit of pride.
Were you warned about it?
Yeah, kind of, but thought I had it. Not quite though, eh?
How would you handle that differently next time?
Fraction slower, but good fun.
Not everyone makes it to this point in Special Stage 18. Seems there's been a few problems further up the road.
90 right, 90 right.
I just came down there a little bit quick and new brakes last night, went probably not bedded in, and yeah, locked up, understeered off. Not really the best parking I've done, but doesn't seem as though there's any damage, so hopefully get it out and get back on after the pit stop.
By lunchtime in Taihape, we start to understand why this competition extends beyond the road. But then, we're in the gumboot capital of New Zealand. Hey, isn't that country singer Brendan Dugan? Give it up, Brendan.
No, not very good at throwing, I'm afraid. It's just one of those things that's just not me. And I should have, really, when you think about it, shouldn't I? But it's cool, it's good fun. Picking up a guitar is a hell of a lot easier than driving Targa, I tell you. But it's an experience. First, the start of it was a little tentative, and I thought, what the hell am I doing here? But yesterday I really got in the groove, and now it's just like each stage after stage just goes. And getting in the feel. The first stage this morning didn't wake up terribly well, but then once again, being new on the block, and just the last two stages was fantastic. The last three stages.
Now, we all know that Kiwi Jim Richards should be able to throw a gumboot, but his co-driver is Aussie V8 motorsport commentator Barry Oliver.
I've been doing this now for 13 years, sitting beside Jim, and I keep saying that it's just the most awesome experience, and I wish everybody else could actually enjoy what I enjoy, and particularly this event, because I don't have a great deal to do on the stages. I've obviously got to point out cautions and so on, but being able to sit there and just watch this man at work, and how he reads the road and how he positions the car and gear selection and all the rest of it, has just been fantastic.
You probably take each other for granted a little bit, but I know that having Barry there is a major part of the success, because I leave everything up to him, all the paperwork, everything. All I do is drive the car and prepare it.
But we think we've found the team that are every bit this pair's match. Meet Chris Simpson and Richard Kugler, who maintain they've equalled at least one of Jim's times in a special stage today.
We picked Jim off in one stage, not a problem. Yeah.
Equalled his time.
Equalled his time, bang on,
yes.
same time, no bullshit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We were most proud of it, weren't we?
Oh yeah, we're just in a tour to live in, $10,000 worth of car, and he's in $300,000, but not a problem.
Yeah. So what was the secret? How'd you do it?
They closed the stage, so we just set the tour through.
And every other person got the same time as well.
Certainly takes all sorts to make this event, from a pair of would-bes if they could be, to a couple of could-bes if they would be. Nick and Dean got the chance to be in Dunlop Targa when organisers ran a competition to find a young team to build and prepare a car for Targa. They were given a car, free entry and parts by Targa, and plenty of supporters to help repair it, but the boys had to make it all happen.
Got a bit of a late notice about it and wrote up an application, and they judged it to be the best application of all the young drivers. So we were selected to do the job.
And the job was nearly over before it began, 5 days ago in the shakedown at Papakura.
I was just hoping it wasn't terminal, but yeah, we pulled out of it, so that's good. So good service crew.
It didn't stop you from going?
No.
We backed out, skidded around the corner so no one could see us, kicked it back in, drove out of the stage, then got back to service and was like,
Don't know how bad it was. Had a bit of trouble on Pukekohe, just the notes are so close together, but after that we've been pretty fine.
Pitches don't represent the corner.
Yeah, we've learned that. Some of them are a lot sharper than they look in the book.
They actually keep coming up to me all the time now as though I'm their dad, because I gave them a bit of a stern telling off the first day when they crunched the Sirocco. But they're doing really good, and I think if you talk to them, say, at the finish, I think those boys will have changed their attitude a lot.
Speed camera, is it?
Yep, speed camera.
$170, $180, $190.
The 200 km/h maximum speed restriction is being rigidly enforced this year. 4 top contenders amongst dozens of drivers incur 5-minute penalties for exceeding the 200 km/h limit. Clark Proctor, Gavin Riches, Alan Scott and Tony Quinn. The 2003 event winner is frustrated by his 5-minute penalty, but is philosophical about speed control.
Rules are rules, and that's it. You know, one of the best things they've done in this rally that I've seen, and I've been to a few, is the GVIs at the beginning. That's a great thing. For one thing, it's a good thing on the cars for getting off the lane. And another thing is it's an easy thing to control. You know, they need one guy up the end, 36 seconds, 50 k's an hour, and it slows the whole thing down for the 132, and it doesn't detract from the event, you know, for the driver.
GVIs, as they've become popularly known, stand for Genuine Vehicle Import Sponsored Speed Restriction Zones, and are found on many stages where it's difficult to keep speed to the designated average 132 km/h. As long as speed is controlled, there'll be those for and those against. It's a no-win situation, but in reality, a win for everyone who wants to race a car on public roads. By the end of the third day, 3 more special stages totalling more than 50 kilometres are covered through Rangitikei region of the North Island. For those prepared to cast a glance sideways at 200 km/h, there's little disappointment.
The roads are fantastic. The support crew have been brilliant all the way through from the event organisers. Scenery's been unbelievable. The weather's well, what can you say? We brought a bit of sunshine across with us, thinking it'd be rainy, sleety, snowy, and it's just fantastic. So we've really had a good time and just taking it easy and enjoying ourselves. It's just been great.
And a great attitude from a first-timer. First time in the Porsche, first time in Dunlop Targa New Zealand, and first time, for that matter, in a rally of any kind. Currently sitting just outside the top 10, Sean Juniper is entitled to think he's the rookie of this event. To top the day off, there's 3 full laps of Manfield racetrack. It only gets better. Racetrack or road, the man-dominating classic category from day one is Clyde Walter and the very ordinary-looking Mark III Cortina. Fortunately for the crowd, Walters is not driving it the ordinary way. 2 Anglias are battling out early classics with Don Ruby quickest today, but trailing Stuart McChesney overall by nearly a minute and a half. But within 24 hours, mechanical failure will force McChesney to surrender the lead back. In outright terms, though, there's no change in the leaderboard, with Jim Richards holding off and in fact extending his lead over everyone behind him. Roger Townsend continues to extend his lead in the Metalman Super Classics and the Handicapped Index of Performance. But it's his flamboyant style behind the wheel that's being noticed the most, as he moves up into 7th outright ahead of Kevin Honus in the Mitsubishi Mirage, but then Honus reckons he has good reason.
We weren't going too bad till
Manfield yesterday, and that's pretty hard on tyres, especially on these little four-wheel drives. So we had the camera car up our backside as well, and sort of he pushed me for a lap or two. So we were cruising, and then we sort of went a little bit quicker, and we have done a little bit of damage to the tyres, but only two which were on the front. So we've been trying to conserve them. We've sort of just been keeping it steady, and because penalties on the tyres are high, so you lose a lot of placings if you do have to dust your tyres.
Yeah, good on you, Kev. Blame the camera car. Now there's a sight. Mark Parsons back in the TR7.
Yeah, unfortunately the gearbox broke yesterday afternoon, which was a bit of a shame, but we always had the Triumph ready in the wings just in case Mel or I had a problem, so unfortunately we're having to use it, not by choice, but it's not a bad second choice car to bring out, so we're looking forward to having a bit of fun.
It's great to be back in because this car's a lot of fun to drive.
Do you think you fixed the original problem?
We think we do, which was a fuel pickup problem. Every time you went through, hard right-hand corners, it starved of fuel, and when it starves of fuel, it runs lean. So we think we do. If it comes up again, we'll have to stop and try and look at it again, but we think it's fixed.
His driving is exceptional, and over the last few years, he's managed to keep the car on the road exceptionally well for us. And now we've given him a car we thought would be capable of doing well in the event, and these little frustrations have just worn us right down, yeah.
All the while, Gentleman Jim has been out there just cruising.
I think the Porsche is the best car for these kind of events because although they're fast, they're unbelievably reliable. They cover the ground quickly and don't look like they're doing it.
Today, Dunlop Targa heads northeast to Hastings. Amidst the conjecture over just what is the best car for Targa, we travelled through a part of the country historically renowned for hydroelectricity. Here opinion is just as divided, with giant electro-generating windmills bracing the horizon. At just 900 kilos all up, Ray Vandersee's Skelter G-Force is light and quick. Third outright amongst this field has left a few scratching their heads, but the Queenslanders have just been getting on with the job, out to prove their radical 2-litre race car is worth a second glance.
Something's broken. Something's broken. Far out.
Sidelined with a broken tie rod end, the Skelter allows Emma Gilmore back into third place outright. But only temporarily, as she's forced to replace worn tyres. She cops a 3-minute penalty and drops 2 places. Scott Juniper takes a more permanent and costly penalty after leaving the road, parking 150 metres down the bank, rolling numerous times in the process. Miraculously, both he and co-driver Dan Bowden escape with just a few scratches. But his Porsche, unlike the others still circulating in Targa, definitely has a lower reliability factor now. For Juniper, it might be time to buy a lottery ticket.
I haven't done it because I think I've used all my luck up. There's nothing left. And when I realised we weren't going to recover on that corner, and left the road, I was actually on the side so you could see down, and at that stage I actually thought we were dead. I didn't think we were going to make it, and so I kept very quiet, and anyway, after about the 12th roll I just kind of gave up, and I know we had a big one and I got knocked out, and then I know that a bit after that we landed, and I heard that someone had told me that we'd rolled about, it was just over 30 times and 5 times end on end. So it was a big one. It was a big one.
Fortunately for everyone's sake, they're not all big.
Next instruction is the finish line. But be careful after the finish line because it's got tight corners. Well, keep off the brakes! Off the brakes!
Shit, that's us out. You right?
Yeah.
And where there's fault, we can learn from it.
Whoa! Off the brakes! Off the brakes! You are very bad on those brakes.
I got off them in the end.
Or eventually learn from it. Maurice Shapley certainly heeded the warning dished out on prologue. The 2002 model Monaro teetered on 2 wheels before being rescued. There were no time penalties for this stage, so he started with a clean slate and has been almost faultless since. Nelson Marshall has been faultless in his driving for the last 11 Targas, but today isn't his day.
And I thought, oh yeah, it just looks like another corner with a bit of loose metal on it. You get round the corner and find there's no gravel at all, it drops off, and it's an off-camber corner, and the car drifted sideways, as it does, in that sort of situation, straight into the bank. I tried to do a wall of death around the edge here, but it dug in and caught the left front and just sort of tipped it over onto its roof, or the back half of the roof, as you can see, and ended up plonk on its left-hand side. So we had to climb out the driver's window. It's the first time I've ever crashed in 14 Targas, so I suppose it had to happen someday, but it's just, I didn't think I earned this one.
Our American expat Gavin Richards has been making the best of his underperforming Porsche 997. His continuing engine problems have been causing no end of frustrations and finally catches him in the same special stage. But he gathers it up in the nick of time.
The problem I'm having is I'm having to stay at a lower gear all the time and not use momentum. And like even this, I would have braked normally and just accelerated out of it, but I didn't want to brake because if I brake, I lose momentum and I've got no low end power, so it just kills my momentum. So I'm always trying to keep the momentum up and stay in a a lower gear than I want to, and it's very hard to get the flow going that I'm used to having.
And what about the unwritten rule that you always damage the co-driver's side of the car?
Oh, absolutely. That's always the case. Never hit your own side. I mean, if you're going to roll over, you want it to be on his side. You don't want to damage your side of the car. Plus, if you get photographed, you want your side of the car looking good.
How does Stephen feel about that?
Oh, he's in complete agreement. Just ask him.
Being from America, I do things backwards. We do everything opposite there, and I would think that I would like to see those fence on his side because then maybe he would try to avoid them more carefully. Me, I look up from the corner and all I see is fence posts coming straight at me. We took a few of them down, so it was quite interesting.
At the other end of the field, 150 cars away, they've been having their problems as well. Ray Sanders handed over the reins of his 1961 Sunbeam Rapier to his 18-year-old son Jeff with strict instructions to look after it.
Can you reverse?
Nah, we're going to have to get out and push.
We just came around a corner pretty quick and it was just all gravel in front of us, and we came in, drifted, turned sideways, completely lost it, just stomped on the brakes.
So how long did it take you to get out of there?
Well, we were kind of thinking that we'd be there until the tow trucks came through, because we couldn't have pushed out the car on our own, but Dad came through in the Tiger, they hopped out, pushed us out, and we were going in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Because it was Jeff and because I knew how much hassle it was going to be for all of us if we had to wait till the tow trucks came and all the rest of it, we thought we'd better deal with it on the spot. I figured I could get it out looking at it. They hadn't got it out, but we did, so I was pretty happy with that. I did 6 Targas in this car, and it's been a fantastic car, and I want to keep it in one piece. And I made that point to Jeff actually. I think he's got it now. He's pushing it a bit harder, although I used to push it a bit at times, but he's definitely giving it all a bit.
So it's been a day of drama, people having moments everywhere. The metal man Clark Proctor has his new Reshell twin-turboed V6 Nissan-powered Escort up and on the pace. It's even faster this year, but it also stops faster. Those wheels and brakes are V8 supercar spec, so he's been confident. But the big issue this time is suspension.
Yeah, the shock absorbers we fitted to the car were brand new at the start of the rally, and I'm somewhat surprised that we should lose a couple of Coney shocks sort of after only really about 1,200 kilometres. So the car was just that far wrong, was all over the place this morning, so we were forced to do it at lunchtime, and with a hell of an effort by the boys, but we got it done. I think we've climbed our way back up to 12th position or something, so with our penalty from speeding, there were certainly some pretty tricky roads out there, and I think the casualty list is fairly high today.
A lot of attrition out there, survival really, and yeah, the heat has just been really astonishing of cooking the car and cooking the tyres, and the roads melting. There's a lot to contend with out there, so we've just been trying to pace ourselves.
The Townsend father and son duo can't afford the luxury of pacing themselves. To stay up the front in the older and lesser powered two-wheel drive takes commitment.
And it just means that we have to carry a lot more corner speed. And occasionally we catch ourselves out, so that gives us a wee fright, and then we back off for a few Ks and we have to try and get back up there again. It's quite frustrating because we know as soon as we scrub off speed we've lost 5 seconds, 10 seconds to a Porsche or to an Evo or whatever it might be. Browse where we lift, we're probably losing 2, 3, 5 seconds. If we touch the brakes, we're probably losing 5, 6, 7 seconds. So a lot of commitment required, but occasionally it catches us.
I really wanted to stick with Will Sallies because obviously I've battled with him before, and we push each other along a bit. And I've done that. And the top 5, I thought, well, if we could finish with the top 5, I'd be really, really pleased. And we've got one day to go, and I think we're about 5th, so it's all good.
In fact, thanks to the weather, Evans is now 1st in the Metalman All-Comers category and 4th outright. The predicted fine weather and hot roads have played havoc with tyre choice. Those with the softer compound and banking on traditional Targa rain are finding themselves with a new rubber. At 60 seconds for the first tyre and 2 minutes for the second, Emma Gilmore is the highest placed competitor caught, dropping 2 places to 5th. Other than that, the top 5 outright remain unchanged, with Jim Richards still with the stamp all over the outright lead. At a slightly different pace, Fred Landon is stamping his authority all over Post Classic, with a massive 8-minute lead over his nearest rival, Gary Murphy, in a Porsche 944. In Classic Car Magazine's historic category, Rodden and Corbett, in their newer TR3, are leading the Thunderbird of Petra Bates. All in all, it's the end of another day for Targa competitors, with more finality for some than others.
Yeah, it is the end of an era, 10 years of Targa rallies, and it definitely is going to be my last one. I've really enjoyed it, and we've had an incredible run this one, and now it's really waiting for the end. It's reliability as much as anything. I think we're all okay. We've got 8 stages tomorrow, and as I say, we're looking forward to it. Bit of apprehension, and it's going to be one awesome party if we get to the end tomorrow.
The Honda Riders Club, this year a sponsor of Dunlop Targa, is using the event as a travelling roadshow. It's been good for them and boss Bob Boniface. Just one day remains, and his hybrid cross between an Evo and Cosworth looks a chance of making the finish.
Our car's still going, and we haven't missed a stage, which is something of a record for this car, and a few minor niggles, but we're going okay.
Will Sellis has been tailing Emma Gilmore for most of the week. Finally, his choice of tyres has paid off.
With the softer compound, you can get faster stage times, and your trade-off is always tyre wear. Now, during this event, if she'd got a couple of days of rainy weather, she probably wouldn't have had to take a tyre penalty. But with 5 solid days of sunny, hot weather, the tyre wear's been incredibly high in this event, and our chance of taking hard tyres has paid off at the end.
Steve Millen and Ray Williams would have been happy just to have tyre problems. All week, theirs have been more serious, and the Ford Focus Pocket Rocket lines up for the final day with no real answer to its continuing fuel problems. By midway through the first stage on the last day, it's obvious this will be one Dunlop Targa Millen would prefer to forget. This 944 Porsche doesn't look anything special, except it crashed out of Targa 3 days ago and wasn't repairable. But that's not stopped Stephen Neville.
completely wrote the chassis off. We found out later on that you can re-enter if you change the chassis. Had a chat to the crew, and the crew said we'll go for it. Rang a friend of mine at a car for sale in Auckland. He towed it down for me that morning. Completely changed the car overnight, and suspension, brakes, under tray, seats, belts, terror trip, the whole kit and caboodle, mate.
It's even the same colour.
Yep, I mean, we got hold of a sign rider. Luckily he had a 10-month-old baby boy, and he had no sleep anyway, so he said he'd give it a go, and we dropped it off at 8 o'clock. Our guys worked with him till 2. We picked it up at 3 in the morning, completely sign written, the whole thing.
The Skelter G-Force might have slipped out of contention yesterday, but in a case of watch this space, they make up for it on the last day, eventually posting the second quickest time of the day behind Joe McAndrew. Surely with a record like this, it won't be long before this little Aussie-built sports car features in greater numbers in Targa. And here's the Kiwis' answer.
Well, it's quite nice to be running a New Zealand-built car in an event like this. It's the only one. LMAC Sabre, built in Upper Hutt, same crowd that built the LMAC Cobra for many years. This is their new model, the Sabre S2, running a Lexus V8, super box, Jag rear end. Quite heavy, but fun, a lot of fun. Short wheelbase and lots of horsepower.
Maybe a bit too much horsepower, John. That's our camera you just passed.
I can't lie about this one. Okay, I admit it, I locked up. But at least I took my foot off the brake and went around the corner as opposed to down the hill.
Whatever the excuse, this looks like another good alternative to keep those Porsches honest. Richard Mertens is a Dunlop Targa virgin, but has no doubt about why he's here.
We're doing it for fun. Last year I was at my office and some of the boys had been on Targa in Wellington. They rang me up to come down to the waterfront to see them as they came in, and so I went down to the waterfront and I stood there, and they'd just got their medals and had done it all week, and the best way I can describe how I felt was that these guys had been flying Spitfires in the Battle of Britain all day, and I was there in some office shuffling paper in the Ministry of Defence. My manhood was cheap, so I decided, right, we'll go and do it next year with the guys. Four of us have entered a team, so I got 3 Porsches, and I thought, no, I'll do a Merc because I've got a whole lot of Mercs and I'm used to driving them.
Lucky for you, Richard, because we've already talked to too many Porsche drivers this year. Speaking of which,
the day's just been about driving through the stages, not losing concentration, and not really worrying if we lose a bit of time. But you know, it's late in the day, and we've got another 4 stages to go. Anything can happen, but yeah, we're just cruising to the finish.
And cruising is exactly what the Nava Tour has been doing all this week. This part of Dunlop Targa is designed for newcomers, those slightly less enthusiastic about throwing their cars around these roads in quite the way many seem to on this event, or they simply don't want to put a roll cage in their prized possession. The week is spent covering many of the special stages in a fast convoy, but it's not timed and is restricted by the speed of the tour leader. There's also time to stop off and watch the competition proper race through some of the special stages at speed.
The tour is open to people that want to dip their toe and have a look at what it takes to get involved in the rally in the major part of it. Hospitality and fun is part of the tour, and these people love their motorsport and they're here to enjoy themselves and see the motor racing.
All in all, a rather relaxing way to spend a week, watching motorsport and touring the country with some like-minded friends and enthusiasts in picture-perfect weather. Hastings beckons Dunlop Targa to wrap up yet another year, but there's still a couple more stages and plenty of action. After 6 days, 750 kilometres and more than 1,200 Dunlop tyres, all that remains is the procession through Hastings Mall to receive that all-important medallion to recognise the feat that has been Dunlop Targa New Zealand for 2005.
Thank you. Put on your picture.
From start to finish, one team has been almost faultless and are deserved winners for the second year in a row. As expected, Jim Richards backed off, allowing Joe McAndrew the title of quickest on day 5, but still trailing Gentleman Jim by more than 2 minutes. Will Sellis earns a respectable and well-deserved 3rd place with Charlie Evans 4th. Emma Gilmore must be content with 5th after taking on fresh tyres. Australian Russ Kempnich goes 2 better than 2004, finishing 6th amongst a very strong field. Roger Townsend holds on for 7th outright, the Classic Class win, and most importantly, the coveted Index of Performance Award based on handicap. 2003 winner Tony Quinn won't be happy about 8th, but is 3rd in class and will be back to fight another day, as will Gavin Riches from Florida. Consistency rewards Stuart Taylor with the final spot in the top 10 for 2005.
I've done bathursts, I've done all sorts of things in my career, but I get the most pleasure out of these kind of events because they're just down to earth, good fun events, and you can drive your car as fast as you can around the roads, and that's what you dream about when you're a boy.